DocTalk is brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, sure trace mineral supplementation by timed injection.
Hi there folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here from Kansas State University, and today we have a great show for you, and I'm excited about it because we're going to talk about parasite resistance to the different products that we have to try to take care of parasites. And we're going to talk about some of the reasons why. I recently had an opportunity to sit down with Dr. Rob Rue, who is a boarded parasitologist and known internationally for discussing such topics in food animals. I'm glad you joined us. Stay tuned.
In the last 3 years, we've changed some things in our AI protocol, one of which was the use of multi-min. We've seen a significant increase in our AI pregnancy rate. The cost of an embryo program is significant, and we feel that if we were able to even get one more pregnancy out of a cow, that would pay for the whole cost of the whole bottle of multi-min right there.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
This segment is brought to you by Norbrook Laboratories, manufacturers of Normycin LA, Normectin Plus, 1% and Poron, the practical choice for your herd. Hi there folks, Dr. Dan here. Thanks for joining me this morning on DocTalk. Recently, I had an opportunity to sit down with one of the world's leading parasitologists, Dr. Rob Rue from Research Incorporated. Dr. Rue was born and raised on a farm, and his 20-some years on the farm and then his experience as a veterinarian led him to understanding how we control parasites in sheep and cattle. Today, we're going to discuss anthelmintic resistance and why we have resistance and some of the things that contribute to it.
What I'm really trying to do is give you some realistic understanding what anthelmintic resistance in cattle in internal parasites is. So first of all, we have to define the fact that resistance starts out with a population of parasites that are susceptible to the drug at the dose rate, to the stage initially. When resistance begins, we begin to see a selection of some pre-existing individuals in that population that were susceptible to the antiparasitic that are no longer susceptible. The resistance may be based on altered active binding site, on where the drug binds. It could be on some sync protein that's sucking up the drug that comes into the parasite. Could be some sort of activated detoxification system, or it could be some behavioral event. We talk about resistance or reduced efficacy, and we tend to focus on the products that are used. But the reality is, we need to focus on a whole lot of factors, which may be much more important than the product. First of all, we got the parasite, then we've got the product, then we've got the host genetic system and the immunity that we just talked about, then we've got stressors on the host, then we've got environmental issues to get involved, and then we've got management issues that are so important in efficacy, and then we've got evaluation techniques. So I'm going to walk through those quickly. The parasite. First of all, we have 5 stages of each parasite. We have eggs, we have L1s, L2s, L3s, L4s, inhibited L4s, and adults. Each one of those stages would have a different efficacy pattern. The L3s are quite susceptible. The adults are susceptible to drug treatment. The L4s, a little worse. The inhibited L4s are really hard to get. So when we talk about efficacy, what are we talking about? On what stage? And how much percentage are we getting on this stage versus that stage when we dose an animal? Different species have different responses to anthelmintics. The lungworms and the homunculus are very, very susceptible to macrocyclic lactones. Cuperia, pretty hard to get really full efficacy. 80% efficacy against Cuperia is really about what you could expect. The Manadiris, you don't hardly touch them with a macrocyclic lactone. On the other hand, let's take levamisole. They don't even touch inhibited L4s at all. In fact, they even have difficulty with non-inhibited L4s. And you may get only if you're treating with a benzimidazole or a levamisole, you'll only get about 30% efficacy against deeply inhibited L4s in cattle.
Hey, when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Dr. Root about anthelmintic resistance, some of the things that contribute to it. Stay tuned.
This segment was brought to you by Brute Cattle Equipment, makers of the Brute Stealth Hydraulic Chute. If the chute fits, swear by it. Visit our website for more information. And by Lalaman Animal Nutrition, dedicated to the development and production of natural and differential solutions for animal nutrition.
Dr. Dan here. Whether I'm driving up and down the roads covering the state of Kansas, or I'm getting between Riley and Manhattan for my job, I'm driving a Ford truck. I'd like you to come out and visit my friends here at Dick Edwards Ford. They have a truck that'll suit your needs, whether you're looking for power with a Power Stroke diesel, or if you're looking for fuel efficiency with the new EcoBoost engine, they got a truck that's just right for you. They're located 2 miles east of the Town Center Mall in Manhattan, Kansas, and they'll bend over backwards to help you. And I'll see you down the road.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Getting ready to work cattle for pre-breeding and calf vaccinations? There's no better time to use a safe, modified live virus vaccine to prevent BRD. Titanium provides the correct equation for BRD with its excellent safety profile and a strong response and long duration of immunity. Ask your veterinarian about modified live virus vaccines and the 8 convenient combinations of titanium for the perfect pairing of performance and value.
This segment is brought to you by Rotomix, manufactured in the USA and designed for feeding performance in the feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations.
Hi there and welcome back to Doc Talk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. We're going to continue our conversation that I had with Dr. Rob Rue about anthelmintic resistance and parasite resistance in cattle and sheep. In the previous segment, we talked about the parasites and how they contribute to resistance. In this segment, we're going to talk about how the products themselves contribute to it.
Okay, now we got these molecules. The levamisole and that class of compounds are very active against adults, a little less active against L4s, don't touch inhibited to speak of. Their mode of action is very rapid. It's on the nervous system. It's a very water-soluble compound. It's in the body, out of the body, 12 hours of efficacy. Okay, if we expect it to have more efficacy, longer period of time, we're doing a disservice to that class of water-soluble compounds. The benzimidazole, they're less water-soluble, so they get L4s, well, they get inhibited L4s between 90 and 30%, depending on how deep the inhibition is. In the southern U.S., in the summertime, you'll get 30%. In the northern U.S., in the summertime, you get 100%. So you have to be aware of that as a limitation of that class of compounds. And you get adults, and you get some egg activity with the benzimidazoles. Their mode of action is microtubule inhibition, 36 hours of efficacy. Now, the macrocyclic lactones are very insoluble in water, very fat-soluble molecules. They're big things. They have activity against L3s, L4s, inhibited L4s, adults. Their mode of action on the nervous system, not the same part of the nervous system as levamisole. But they have from 1 to 5 weeks of activity, depending on the parasite and the conditions of the challenge. Also, we've got carrier issues in our products. An oral product, if you treat an animal that has a full abomasum, it's full of food, you reduce the amount of drug that's absorbed by 30%. If you fast it for 12 to 24 hours, you get a boost of 30% more product in the animal. The injectables, we have to be real careful when we talk about injectables, because are we going sub-Q? Are we going IM? Are we going IV? IV can be very toxic. If you're trying to do a subcutaneous product and you hit IM, it could be very damaging to the muscle and get hung up in the muscle. These are issues we have to be aware of. Porons. Oh my goodness, porons. Dirt on the hair. Long hair. Cold weather. Licking. We got all kinds of ways we can change the amount of product available to that animal. And we may call that resistance or lack of efficacy. In fact, it's just simply a physical barrier issue. Oxidative-free excipients for products with unstable oxidative molecules. This is one of our problems for macrocyclic lactones. If you have oxygen in that bottle, there is a bond between position 22 and 23 on that molecule that cleaves very easily. Now, we could have oxygen because we don't have real pure excipients. We could have oxygen because we use part of the bottle and we've been bouncing it around in our truck for a while. We can have oxygen for a lot of reasons, but it will inactivate the molecule.
Stay tuned for more of our discussion with Dr. Rue on anthelmintic resistance and parasites, and this time we're going to talk about how the host can contribute to the problem.
TrueTest Group, weighing systems, electronic identification EID, electric fencing, and dairy automation systems help farmers and ranchers around the world manage the performance of their livestock for ultimate profitability. Beef producers need a practical choice when antibiotic therapy is required. More than ever, they are reaching for non-prescription Noromycin 300LA from Norbrook, specially formulated to produce sustained antibiotic blood levels up to 4 days in cattle. Noromycin 300LA delivers economic, broad-spectrum disease management for pneumonia, shipping fever, pink eye, wound infections, and foot rot. See for yourself why Norbrook's Noromycin 300LA is the practical choice for your herd.
Hi, I'm Kevin Ochsner, host of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman and Colorado Rancher. Join me each week as the National Cattlemen's Beef Association brings you the latest updates in industry information and market news. Plus, each week we provide important educational information and features on cattlemen from across the country just like you. And we can't forget our favorite cowboy poet, Baxter Black. Join me for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, debuting Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern, right here on RFD TV.
Got cattle? Rotomix manufactures a complete line of energy-efficient rotary and vertical feed mixers for feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Our mixers are available with the patented Generation 2 staggered rotor, the industry standard for feeding wet rations that include wet distiller's grain. Made in the USA, Rotomix mixers are designed for feeding performance that American cattlemen and dairy producers have come to expect. Rotomix, proud to offer a better mix in less time using less fuel.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Hi there, folks. Welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here. We're going to continue our discussion that I had with Dr. Rob Rue about anthelmintic resistance. And this time we're going to talk about the impact of the host, whether it's the sex, the age, or the breed of the animal. And we'll talk about some of the physiological states or stressors that may lend itself to parasite resistance of anthelmintics.
Okay, what about the hosts? My goodness, they're going to have an impact on the efficacy, because really when we talk about efficacy, we're talking about the product interacting with the immune system to really get full efficacy. Now, if we're looking at different species, of course, goats, their immune system for internal parasites are useless. In fact, we should never actually graze a goat. They're born browsers. They're not geared to be good animals to put to graze and pick up larvae and kill those larvae with the immune system. They also have another issue, and that is the fact that because they are born browsers, they have very, very active metabolic enzymes in their liver, and they'll chew up drugs. You got to, if you give what we made this mistake for years and years. I've been in this business for 40 years, and we've been doing it for 40 years. Here we get a sheep registration, and we put it in goats. Okay, let's say it's at 100 in sheep. It needs to be 150 or 200 in goats to get the same effect, and yet we put goat on the label. Cattle, they have the best immune system of those three species. Also, there's sex issues. Male animals, especially intact males, have the worst immune systems in terms of parasite control. And then there's steers, there's cows, there's yearlings, and breeds. Dairy breeds are the worst, through English up to something with an ear and a hump. And in age, calves are very susceptible. I have very weak immune systems. Yearlings a little better, and adults a very strong immune system. Okay, what about other stressors in the system? Because we're talking about immune information, we're talking about transport information, we're talking about metabolism information. We have all kinds of stressors that affect those things. Calving. I mean, a cow will go from an egg count of 5 to an egg count of 30 when she drops a calf. She didn't get more parasites, but her immune system dropped and allowed the parasites in her to shed eggs. Viral infections. We have the same immune system working with viruses that work against parasites, internal parasites. If we have a viral infection, we're fighting for the energy. Steroid implants, heat stress, cold stress, and the cold stress could be on the animal, or it could be on the product. It could be poor syringeability, it could be poor absorption. Heavy parasite infections. We cannot control parasites under very high challenge the way we can under a lower challenge. And inadequate nutrition. I mean, that's the driving force for the immune system. That's the driving force for the growth. That's going to impact the effect.
Hey, when we come back after the break, we'll continue the discussion with Dr. Rue, and we'll talk about how we're going to look and find the efficiency of the anthelmintic problems, some of the issues with management, and why it's so difficult to spot parasite resistance right here in the United States.
This segment is brought to you by Purple Wave Auction, the easiest, most straightforward way to sell used equipment. Purple Wave, straight, simple, sold.
You're listening to Agriculture Today for Kansas State University. Beef stocker grazing systems vary by location. In Kansas and Oklahoma, wheat pastures are commonly used to graze stocker cattle. Ryan Reuter from the Noble Foundation talks about potential carryover effects to the feedlot when cattle are backgrounded on wheat pasture.
The longer cattle are on forage, on wheat pasture, and the faster they gain, the longer they gain, they do start accumulating some fat. And there's some perceptions that fat thickness, that fleshiness, causes reduced performance in the feed yard. And in several of the studies that we looked at, that we reviewed today, we just don't see that effect show up when we actually follow those cattle individually through a finishing phase and a carcass phase in a research setting.
This is K-State Research and Extension.
Cow-calf, stocker, and feedlot producers know that effective parasite control improves overall herd performance and profitability. Norbrook offers a comprehensive, economical line of pour-on and injectable parasiticides for every livestock operation. Consult with your local animal health supplier to set up a program that protects your investment and brings larger cattle checks this fall. See for yourself why the Noromectin line from Norbrook is the practical choice for your herd.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
Jason Lewis. I work here on Division Ranch, north of Strong City, Kansas. We run 500 head of mama cows. We started using multi-min about a year ago. We We didn't have any problem with health that year. Didn't have to doctor near as many in that pasture. Just the overall appearance was a lot better. And I liked it so well, we'll start using it on everything.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hi there and welcome back to Doc Talk. We're going to continue our discussion with Dr. Rob Brew on anthelmintic resistance of parasites in food animals such as beef, cattle, and sheep. We're going to talk about some of the management strategies that can be incorporated, and we'll talk about some of the things on handling the products and storing them that can cause problems as well. Finally, we'll talk about why it's so difficult to find anthelmintic resistance right here in the United States when it's right underneath our nose.
Okay, management. Whew. Here we go. Now, probably the number one thing is we don't weigh our animals before we dose them. So we don't dose to the right amount. We're either underdosing, we're overdosing, we don't know what we're doing. And we say this product didn't work. Well, maybe I underdosed that animal by 30%. Why wouldn't it work? Of course it's not going to work in the way it should. Stocking densities. I mean, they're going to get heavy stocking densities. The animals are going to get infected more rapidly. You may look at a fecal egg count reduction that comes up very quickly after the treatment because they're reinfected. Rotational grazing. That's an excellent way of doing things, is to put on older hosts before you, to kind of suck up the parasites before you put on younger hosts. The refugia, that's something that's come up really big in this FDA report recently. It's basically talking about having a susceptible population of parasites put on the pasture so that they can kind of drown out the effect of the resistant parasites on the pasture. That's, to me, that's a red herring, and I'll get back to that in the last slide. Proper nutrition. Without proper nutrition, we don't get good efficacy and we don't get good growth. Animals missed in the chute. We all know about that, but that's probably pretty minor. Good records. Oh my, if we want to really evaluate our parasite control programs, we have to keep good records of how they're growing, or what the calving rates are, or what the calving weights are, or whatever it is that we're going to use as a parameter to evaluate, did we get a good parasite control this year? What last year, was it better? Was it worse? What did we change in the meantime? We have to have that information, and that is so key. Record keeping is really key, because we'll talk about my recommendations for how to look for whether the product worked or not. FDA guidelines, they've recently talked about harrowing pastures. That's a good idea if you have hot, dry weather and you have no animals on the pasture. Don't do it. If you have animals still on the pasture and you have moist weather, you're just going to get yourself in a worse place. And they don't put that in those guidelines. Evaluation techniques. Now, in sheep and goats, we have this FAMACHA technique, which because Haemophilus is a bloodsucker, the eyes turn white when an animal is really sick. And you can know which animals to treat and which animals you don't have to treat. That's wonderful. We don't have that in cattle. We have fecal egg count reduction. Fecal egg count reduction is not a quantitative test. It is a qualitative test. The parasites are there or they're not there. That's all it's telling you. Because you can't measure L4s, you can't measure L3s, you can't measure inhibited L4s, you can't measure probably 2/3 of your parasites in the animal with a fecal egg count. Weight gains. That's what I use as my primary measurement of parasite control. End of story. Body conditioning scores, calving rates, calving weights. Yeah, it's good. They're helpful, but there's so many other variables in developing those particular scores that it's very, very hard. Now, here's the problem. We have no idea what the extent of anthelmintic resistance in cattle in the U.S. is. I have been working this field for 40 years. And the truth of the matter is I have 3 documented cases of cattle parasite-resistant properties, internal parasite-resistant properties. And I can tell you where they are. But there is nothing else in the literature that tells me what our problem is in the United States. We need treatment and a timing and efficacy for these products really done well. Now, we always hope and we always look forward to new technologies that are coming along that are going to help us with some of these things. But in the meantime, what we need is to be able to make sure we understand what resistance is, what causes it, and we need to understand how to quantitatively evaluate it in cattle in this country. Thank you very much.
Hey there, thanks for joining us today on Doc Talk. I sure hope you enjoyed the show with some great information from Dr. Rue, and our hat goes off to him for sharing that with us today. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian, and if you want to know more about what we do at the College of Veterinary Medicine or on DocTalk, you can find us at doctalktv.com or at vet.ksu.edu. Thanks for watching Doc Talk today. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
Doc Talk, produced in cooperation with Drovers Cattle Network and Bovine Veterinarian. For more information about this program or previous programs, go to doctalktv.com. Doc Talk was brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, sure trace mineral supplementation by timed injection,